Hello friends, Klaige back with the next part of my comprehensive plus R Anji guide. Started off with the normals in the first guide. Today we are going to be talking about Anji's special moves. Just a quick reminder, again, I'm doing this guide as a comprehensive guide that's going to go all the way from the basics of the character all the way up to some very advanced tech, some very advanced game plans, and all that good stuff. But we're definitely building fundamentals to start here. So I'm also making a point to do comparisons where they're appropriate to how Anji plays in Strive. For those of you that have only played Strive or have only played Anji in Strive and are looking to check him out in this legacy version of Guilty Gear, I'm trying to make some proper comparisons and make the transition a little bit easier on you. So there'll be some comparisons here and there. Again, just to reiterate, these are not meant to be a one-to-one thing. Strive and Plus R are obviously two very different games, but if you're coming from Strive and you're not familiar with this, it helps to get a point of reference. So that is the whole purpose of these comparisons that get made. So this guide is only going to cover Anji's special moves. I am not going to talk about Force Breaks, which are the EX moves that cost 25% meter that are a part of Accent Core and Plus R. Those will get their own guide. Meter and meter usage is very important, especially to Anji, so that's going to deserve its own specific talking point. And I'm also not going to talk about his auto guard specials, specifically his auto guard counters that count as special moves. Those are going to be part of the auto guard guide because that also needs its own very specific set of explanation, and it deserves an entire guide to really show off how auto guard works as a whole. So those are going to be omitted from this. This is just his special moves. The basic you input a motion, you get yourself a special move. So we're going to start with the basic ones and work our way up to the more complex stuff that you will probably be familiar with if you've played Strive. So let's go ahead and get jumping into this. Anji's specials, for the most part, are pretty easy to apply. They all have very strong applications when used properly. This character doesn't really have any bad special moves. His entire kit, much like his set of normals, is very good when it's the right tool for the job. If you try to brute force a special move when it's the wrong tool for the job, you will get obliterated, because that is the nature of Plus R, and that is the nature of playing Anji in Plus R. So let's start off with the simple stuff. So 214, punch and kick, stomp. This is called Kai, K-A-I, but most people will just refer to these as stomp. The punch version, very short, goes like this. The kick version, much higher, and goes over them. Can be, both of these can cross up. For example, punch stomp can cross up. Kick stomp can also cross up when spaced properly. These moves have some interesting properties that aren't readily apparent. So for one, these are both lows. They actually, these are both highs. My bad. These are both overheads. So these have to be blocked standing high, which probably seems a little weird considering he stomps the ground. You would initially think low. It makes more sense if you always think of it from the kick stomp perspective. These are both considered overhead moves. The nice part about both of these is that they are both safe on block. Not only are they safe on block, both of these are actually plus on block. So punch stomp is +2. And with your 4-frame standing punch, you can continue pressure very easily if someone blocks this. This is very much your turn. Kick stomp is +1, which is still plus. Kick stomp, however, is more prone to being dangerous if instant blocked by certain characters who have like 3-frame normals, or for example Potemkin, who has a 3-frame Potemkin buster. Getting this move instant blocked is very dangerous, but for the most part these are very safe options for potential mix-ups. They're very safe options for pressure. You know, something as simple as this, there's a small gap there, but that is pressure. You know, you can even start doing stuff like doing lows into a stomp and trying crossing them up. And you can reach very far away with kick stomp, as you can see. It goes a good distance and is very, very cross-up friendly. This is one of my favorite tools in general pressure, and especially in butterfly pressure, for throwing a different viewpoint at the opponent, giving them something else to think about for a mix. Kick stomp is very good for that. So very, very basic moves. Like I said, they can cross up. You can use these on somebody's wake up to attempt to cross up. Just be forewarned that both of these moves are very air throwable. People who know how Anji works and are savvy to his game plans, if you tried to cross up stomp all the time, you will just start getting air thrown for your trouble. And so this is not a I have my cross up option for every Okazeme situation. No, definitely not. These are, like I said, like the rest of Anji's kit, they're a sometimes thing. You got to know the right time to be throwing out stomps, just like you got to know the right time to pick which normal to use. But these are very good buttons. They will get you a lot of mileage. They can be really frustrating for players who are new and don't really know how Anji works. And again, very safe. +2 and +1, nothing to sneer at whatsoever. An important thing about Kick Stomp is it has an FRC. And I didn't go into detail about what FRCs are, so I'm going to do that now. In the normals guide, I had so much to talk about, I didn't want to clutter it with FRCs, but I can't really avoid the explanation anymore. So FRCs are a mechanic unique to the XX series. Essentially what they are is specific moves have small windows where you are allowed to Roman cancel for 25% meter. It's called false or forced Roman cancel, depending on which version you originally started with. But the general idea is that certain moves are allowed to always Roman cancel, regardless if they are in the midst of whiffing, hitting, being blocked, doesn't matter. Some moves have it before their attacks hit. For example, Kick Stomp, if you FRC it, it will not hit the opponent. If you let this rip, it hits. You FRC it, you get nothing. But this has some very practical applications, especially in pressure and in butterfly setups, because this is a very cheeky way to get a throw. And so this is an FRC that is actually worth learning. FRCs are notorious for being the mechanic that people tout how hard Old Guilty Gear is, and you have to do these arbitrary execution practices where you have to hit these Roman cancels in 3 and 4 frame windows, and they exist. I'm not going to pretend that FRCs don't exist. Anji especially is a character that if you decided to never learn an FRC, you could still play the character at high level. Will the FRCs be very useful in specific situations and make you a better player? Absolutely. But Anji is not a character that lives and dies on his FRCs. So if you're worried about these being like a big point of contention for you trying to learn the game, don't be, especially if you're looking to play Anji. Something that's really nice, if you put on the input display, which is a little bit different than you're used to in the modern games, you don't get the cool virtual controller and everything, but something very useful that the input display does is when you do a move that has an FRC, it will actually flash blue, and when you see it the brightest on the screen, that is kind of your visual cue to learn the timing of the FRC. So this is very useful if you're trying to learn this in like strings. You can use this for all sorts of moves that have FRCs. It'll show you where it is and how to hit it. Anji's are fairly lenient for the most part. He does have a couple tricky FRCs, but again, the vast majority of them you're not going to be worrying about. They really are not necessary to pilot the character. But I did want to take the time to show the input viewer and how it works because it is important, especially for this move. So those are the stomps. Really, like I said, really easy to apply, really straightforward, very good moves. You'll enjoy having these as another option to extend pressure so you're not always stuck working with Fuujin or Butterfly like you are in Stride. Next, we're going to talk about On. This is Anji's Rising Command Grab. This is unblockable. You cannot FD it in the air. You cannot do anything to stop this move. If they jump and Anji reaches them with the hitbox on this, they get grabbed. So this move, for the most part, is your default combo ender. Because what it does is it perfectly sets up Butterfly. This spaces out Butterfly pretty much exactly how you would want it. You can combo into this from all sorts of things, like I showed in the other video, Stand Punch. I need to have bad guys stop blocking, though. There we go. Yeah, like stand Punch into Own. Very common combo ender for certain situations. All sorts of things combo into Own. This is very easy to combo into for even latent combos with a juggle. Very, very easy to do. In general, do not think of this move as some kind of call-out DP or some kind of, I'm going to snatch you out of the sky. This move has some pretty noticeable startup for what it is, and it's not a great psychic-type move. Every once in a while, if someone is being very blatant, if you can start a combo with Own, cool, go for it. But in general, this move is entirely built for Anji to end combos and get knocked down with. The important thing to note is that this move always turns the opponent around. If you grab them with Own in the corner, you are going to yank them out of the corner. And we'll talk about that when we get to Anji's combos, but in general, there's a lot of situations where you're not going to want to pull someone out of the corner, and that's when you're going to look to do things that either in combos with on that put them back in the corner, or omitting on so you don't have to use it and yank them out of the corner. You also notice this also has an FRC on it. It's a little bit trickier to hit, smaller window than the kick stomp. If you're going to learn one FRC with this character, and only one, I highly recommend you learn on. And the reason for this is very simple. This move on its own is an option select. If you do a combo into on at default height and you buffer the FRC, if they can be grabbed by on, they're going to get grabbed. If they burst, you are going to FRC and automatically bait the burst. It is a built-in option select that you do not have to think about. You can buffer it every time you do on, and it will just do it itself. If it's going to combo, it'll combo. If it's not going to reach, cool, you get a free FRC and you get to block whatever they're doing. I can probably, let's see. We can set... I don't think they have burst delay for... I think this is based off frames, isn't it, in this one? I don't think you can set it to a number of hits. So if we do on hit, is this just a... Yeah, it's based on frames. So I don't have a great way to show you the option select without timing out the frames. But all you need to know is that if you do a combo that would end with on, and you buffer that FRC while doing this, that's not going to come out there because this reached. If Soul decides to burst as you go into on and you FRC and just hold back, congratulations, you've auto-baited the burst. This is the one FRC I definitely recommend learning with this character. Just learning to always do this input as Dragon Punch and then hold back and hit the FRC as you're going up. There is no penalty for doing it. Literally none. So there are rare situations where if you juggle someone really, really high where you can potentially still grab them with on and FRCing it would make it so it wouldn't reach. But in those situations, there's also a very good chance your opponent might be able to tech anyway because you're usually like late in a combo or you've created a less than ideal juggle or something is going on there and you're probably going to want to do a jump combo instead. So this is the FRC to learn. If you're going to learn it, highly recommend it. You can go into on off of all sorts of things. You hit someone with a stomp and you dash buffer. You can pretty much always get combos on this. The one caveat I am going to mention real quick is that this is an older game, and unfortunately with older fighting games like this come the problem of very differing character hitboxes and a lot of character-specific combos. For the most part, Anji has a lot of stuff that works mostly universally. Own is one of those things. Characters that have really thin horizontal hitboxes when they're being juggled in the air can sometimes be difficult to hit with Own. So just keep that in mind. You'll find these out as you're playing very quickly, and I'll show some examples when we get to combos. But characters like Kai and Robo-Kai can be very difficult to just get something like Stomp into Kick/Own. That can be really tricky on them. But the good news is Anji has hordes of ways to get knocked down without Own. It's just that, if possible, you want to end your combos with this because, one, again, sets a perfect butterfly spacing. Two, this move scales fantastically. This move will always do a big chunk at the end of combos, even with guts and other defensive factors kicking in. So it's an excellent thing to end combos with because it scales incredibly well. So that covers those two. Next, Shin Nishiki, which is the follow-up to, most of you remember, Fuujin into Fan Needles, which we'll talk about a little bit when I get to Fuujin. Well, that Shin Ichini. Nishiki is this. Orb. This is an air-only move. Anji puts the fans together, throws out a big orb. This is a very interesting and very useful move, also a very risky move if you don't use it properly. So the first thing to know is one of the first things you're going to want to learn is to TK this, Tiger Knee it. Tiger Knee being where you do a motion that ends in a jumping up or jumping up back, jumping up forward motion that creates an off-the-ground air move. So, like, you can only do this move in the air, but learning to TK this is very, very easy. This is Anji's fastest overhead. This move comes out in 17 frames as an overhead if you do it as low to the ground as possible. The thing to note about this move is that if it gets blocked, it is your ass. This is minus 37 on block. You will die if you get this move blocked. The good thing is that this is a hard move to see in a lot of situations because Anji has so many jump cancel options and so many ways to make people afraid of not blocking their feet that this is something you can fit in a lot of situations. This has some very weird tech and not techable situations, and it's all dependent on height and whether or not it was a counter hit. So if you just hit someone low to the ground, they're gonna get a hard knockdown. They're going to land. The thing is, if you don't have any meter to Roman cancel this, you don't really get much off of it because it sends them bounding really far away. So low to the ground, you're going to get a knockdown. If you have meter, you can actually combo off this in a lot of situations. You can, if I can TK today. Apparently I can. There we go. You can do stuff like this for combos. So that is one thing. This move becomes much more valuable when you have 50% meter to back it up with a Roman cancel. Much stronger when that's available. The other thing about this move is that if you do it really high up, your opponent will get to tech. So let's say we start a combo and we do something like this. What's going to work on bad guy here? Let's just go to the corner and I'll do an example for you. Bad guy gets to tech there, see? So something that I will go over in greater detail in the combo section with Anji is that learning how to do combos where you can end an orb at about mid-height, where you're maybe a little bit taller than a character height from the ground, actually makes this untechable again. So if you can set up situations like this, see if bad guy will work for this. I got to figure out my juggle height here. Should be... That guy might not be the best example for this. It can work on him, but it's a little difficult. But in general, if you can hit orb about this height in an air combo, you will still get a knockdown, a full hard knockdown. That is an option. The other thing about this move is if you juggle them really high and have meter, you can also still combo into on off of it and do stuff like this. Not what I want. That's old muscle memory kicking in. There we go. You can land, go into own, get a knockdown. Again, I'll go over this stuff in much greater detail when we get to the combo section of the guide, but I just wanted to highlight that this move, in general, is not easy to get hard knockdown with because it has to be either extremely low to the ground where you're not going to get the kind of okizeme you want, or you need to be at kind of a middling height for it to be untechable. So that's something I'll focus on when we get to the combo section, but this is a very good move. It's something that's very useful to have in the back pocket. 17 frame overheads are no joke. And again, because you have so many ways to do something innocuous like stand kick, this is jump cancelable. So you have things like stand kick, low slash, stand kick, down forward punch for an overhead, stand kick, TK orb. Like, this is all sorts of options you have. And of course, the other important thing is because this is an air special, you are unthrowable. So you can use this sometimes on wake up. There are usually better ways to apply high-low mix-up on somebody's wake up if you're not doing butterfly, something else I'll do in a later guide. But in general, this is a move that you will use occasionally as a sneaky overhead. You typically want to have meter to back it up for safety purposes. And it's also a very useful combo ender when you can't do your basic ground B&Bs that involve Fuujin stuff. So pretty simple move to apply. Again, there's some pretty cheeky applications and stuff you can use, but just learning the character, just remember that if you can Tiger Knee this, you have access to a very fast overhead. Next, Shitsu. You all know it. You've seen it. Shitsu is way better in this game, even after the buffs and strive. So this move is so much faster, and you recover so much faster. See how quick I'm up on top of Soul after throwing him and doing basic butterfly Oki? Like, you get there. You get to do mix-ups on people in this game when you do butterfly Okizeme. See, that's a true string. Easily a true string in this game. You can even do true strings off stuff like forward S. Like, and I'll show all the butterfly stuff you could possibly want when we get to the Okizeme section. The important things about this, one, it's way faster. You will have a little bit of difficulty if you're coming from strive spacing this and timing it because it's going to feel so fast. It's definitely not as bad now that Shitsu was buffed up in strive, but it will take some time getting used to this. You can also do this off all sorts of things like knockdown off sweep, There are tons of ways to get Shitsu Oki without having just a throw or going into own. And the other important thing to note is if you'll notice, when it comes down, 2 hits. That second hit makes this move so much better for pressure and so much better for mix-up. You will like Shitsu. If you've been able to use Shitsu well in Strive, you will get to go nuts in this game because you get to do all sorts of basic stuff like, oh man, if that overhead hits, guess what? That's a combo. You get to do full damage. Butterfly Oki video will come down the line. If you're looking forward to the mix, that'll be there. But all you need to know, Shitsu very good. This is actually a neutral tool in this game. There are matchups where this is extremely good to throw out in neutral. Characters like Johnny and Slayer and other characters who are very horizontal and ground-based, they have to respect this and try and take other avenues in. And you can zone people out by doing stuff like this, and you still have this godly stand punch that we talked about in the normal guide, that if people want to come over your head, they're going to have a bad time. Also, you still have forward punch, and we have auto guard moves. You kind of see where this is going. Shitsu's good. Very, 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 very good in this game. Use it, love it, look forward to all the mix. Lastly, the big one. The one that is what makes this character famous, what this character is all about. It is the move that I named my dog after. Yes, my dog is named Fuujin. What about it? Fuujin. 2 versions. Slash. 236S. This move is mostly combo fodder. You will not use Slash Fuujin in neutral or pressure very often. There are some specific pressure situations where you will want this over the hard slash version, but in general, this is a combo tool, and if you want to get whiff Fuujin follow-ups out. So if you want to do something like zone with fan needles, Slash Fuujin is your go-to idea instead. Something important to note, if you are coming from Strive, there are no Kara follow-ups in this game. If you want to do a Fuujin follow-up, Fuujin has to actually complete its animation first. You can do them on whiff, but you have to recover. You do not get to do these ahead of time. There is no Kara version in this. And trust me, when you see what Fuujin does in this game, you will not be sad about that. Perfectly okay. Yeah, Slash Fuujin, mostly a combo tool. Occasionally a I need to get follow-ups out tool. But you will be using it far, 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 far less than the Notorious. The move that makes people scream. The move that makes people call Anji a gorilla, say he's scrubby, say he's the easiest character in the game. Yes, these are all things people say in this game. Hard slash Fuujin. So, auto guard, as I talked about, not the same in this game. It's attached to moves and normals in this game. It is not a spin or a dance or a state in this game that you get forced into. There is no auto guard on Fuujin in this game. What Fuujin does have is, see how Anji goes into that pirouette motion and spins around as he's going? Let me see if I can get a freeze frame for you here. That's a little late, but right idea. It's hard to do because I'm trying to do thumb on start. And it really... You ever try to hold your arcade stick in a manner you're not accustomed to? Makes stuff hard. There we go. If I would have actually selected right here. There we go. So... See the kind of shadowy animation behind Anji there where he's turning his back to the camera and spinning? For that entire animation, frames 1 through 12 of the startup of Hard Slash Fuujin, Anji is invulnerable to strikes. He cannot be hit with normal specials or supers. It goes through all of it for those 12 frames. Someone swings into this, they whiff. Absolutely whiffs. And they have a bad time because if you get counter hit by Fuujin in this game, that's not going to be fun for you, let me tell you. This move is really, really good. It is a forward-moving dragon punch of sorts. The important thing to remember is that it takes a long time before you actually get to the active frames where you can hit people. Hard Slash Fuujin is 20 frames of startup before it becomes active. So, is it a forward-moving invulnerable dragon punch? In a way, yes, absolutely. 12 frames of invulnerability is eternity. It's really good. However, really good Dragon Punch reversal type moves tend to be out in somewhere like, 5 frames, 7 frames. This is 20. It's really important to note. It's a lot longer. This is not a reversal. There are very, very rare situations where you can get away with trying to reversal with this, and if you would have got away with that, you probably had way better options to do. This is also the move that will get you in trouble as an Anji player by trying to use it too much. The matchups where this move is good, it is oppressive as hell, and it will make people very salty. There are also matchups where people have the right buttons to contest this, and they can make Fuujin feel almost inert at times. Much like in Strive, Fuujin's big weakness is big, active, low-profile moves and lows. And there are a lot of those in this game, and some characters can stuff this with ease on reaction if you are super predictable about it. We'll get into more how you apply hard slash Fuujin and how you use it to punish people for poor decisions in neutral, how to use its pressure and all that when we get into some more in-depth guides. But you just need to know 1 through 12, invulnerable to strikes. It is always throwable. People can throw you out of this on any frame whatsoever if they so choose. And the other important thing is both of these are still minus 16 on block. If you just stand here, you are minus 16. That said, that's a very viable thing to do in this game because you have much different follow-ups and much more dangerous follow-ups. Let's go through the follow-ups real quick. So, your Fuujin follow-ups. Fan needles. Very different in this game for a couple reasons. One, as you can tell, a whole lot of projectiles instead of a small thing. The other thing important to note, this is not like Strive. These are active the moment they are out of his hands. These are real projectiles. People cannot just blow through those for free or try and run through it. They will get hit. Other important thing to note, you get to act after this in the air if you time your air dashes right and continue pressure. Anji recovers quite quickly. These are very, very safe. If someone blocks this, you are plus 17 if they block one of these. This is a huge thing. The important thing to remember, this is much slower. Much, much, much slower than the Strive version of this move. And there are a lot of characters that can absolutely hammer you on reaction for doing this. Milia is a great example. If you do this to Milia and she sniffs it out, she can jump, does counter hit you for free. But this is a good sometimes option after Fuujin to keep people in the corner. If they don't immediately flinch and try and get out, you lock them down really well. And now you get to go in and do all sorts of follow-ups. Do keep in mind that if you follow up with this with an air dash and do, some kind of air string afterwards, that you have recovery frames afterwards when you land. There will be a short gap there where you do have to have recovery frames. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be a foolproof string, and you're not going to be able to do empty air dash kind of stuff and get away with it. Just something to remember about fan needles in this game. They also do have an FRC. It's pretty tricky to hit, and it's really only useful if you are absolutely sure that someone's going to sniff out your fan needles and try and punish you for it. In general, this is really hard to punish if you hit it. But this is an FRC that 99.9% of the time you can safely ignore. Don't feel compelled to spend time learning that. That is like an ultra hard read on a, oh no, I shouldn't have done this and I need to bail out. So not really too big of a deal. Next, kick follow-up, the hop. This is so much better than it is in Strive, it's not even funny. So for one, this is a low crush move. This has lower body invulnerability after frame 6, I believe, frame 6 or 7. So anyone tries to do a low, you absolutely crush them for doing this if you choose hop. The important thing that you're also probably seeing, this crosses up in this game. You can blast through the opponent. You are not beholden to only landing in front of them. You actually get to cross through them. So this has a lot of use in terms of sometimes you need to keep people honest from just throwing out lows, because lows in general are what give Fuujin and its follow-ups trouble. This is how you keep them honest. This is also a very notable part of Anji's combo game, which again, when we get to the combo stuff, I will go into deeper detail on that. But in general, there are often situations where you're going to do stuff like combo with Fuujin, hop, and try and continue a combo, just like you do in Strive on counter hits. So has both applications. It is both a reasonable follow-up that can actually land you throws and cross up on people, and it's useful for the combo part of it. You're not just going to do this all the time. If people sniff this out, Anji is in counter hit state. It is very easy to punish on reaction if people know it's coming. So it's not a, haha, I get to hop and cross them up all the time. It is a throw it in once in a while for the wrinkle. Keep people honest. Put them in the schmicks kind of thing. But don't weigh on it too hard. It'll get you in trouble. Next, Nagiha. So Nagiha in this game is very different for a few reasons. One, this move is garbage on block. This move is minus 19 on block. If they block this, you are dead. You do not want to get Nagiha blocked. Nagiha is not your pressure ender in this game. This is very much the idea of you're doing a Rekka, and this is your frame trap. If you catch people sleeping and you catch them with Nagiha, it is a hard knockdown. It's untechable for 35 frames. You can get hard knockdowns on this, even in juggle combos sometimes. So this move is very, very good, but it's a move you have to use sparingly, and you have to mix it up. You cannot be predictable with Nagiha in this game. If you autopilot this, you will absolutely die. Some important things about how it works, though. On counter hit, this gives a very nice float. So if we... There we go. Let's have you... I'm going to need you to guard first. There we go. So... Big ol' float on that. Very useful there. You can get a lot of stuff after that. The other thing is, you probably noticed, this has an FRC. This FRC is very useful, and it's very worth your time to learn it because it gives you a lot of combo extension options. It gives you safety if Nagiha gets blocked. But I would say this is arguably the trickiest FRC Anji has to learn. It's a pretty small window. I believe it's 3 frames. And sometimes you're going to delay your Nagiha, which throws off the timing a little bit. So this one takes practice. I miss this FRC fairly often when I'm going for it. It's one of those things you just kind of have to get used to. But it is a good FRC to learn because, yeah, keeping that move safe is important. Minus 19 is not fun. Not at all. But Nagiha works very similar to how it does in Strive, except that, again, Fuujin follow-ups are way better, and it's much harder for your opponent to just sit there and wait you out in this game. That is not nearly as easy to do. So, Nagiha is still viable. It's still going to be something you're going to want to use fairly often, but you have to be judicious with it. If you are predictable, you will get blown up. So, be careful with it. Last special move of the day. Rin. You all know this move quite well. It's been around. This is in Strive. Guess what? This move is way better in this game. Way, 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 way better in this game. So, first off, even on block. Not minus 15, even on block. We don't die. Not only do we don't die, we have pressure options. It is still possibly our turn, depending on the matchup. This move is actually a button you can hit and not die for getting it blocked, which feels really nice. Other important things. It is still an overhead. Still has to be blocked high. On regular hit, this doesn't do anything special. You just get a basic knockdown. So if we have Soul Guard and then go into Rin. Why is that still on counter hit? Oh, my bad. Thought I turned counter off. Here we go. So, block. Just a basic knockdown. And not a very good one either. In general, if you get a knockdown with this, you don't get a lot. Not the best knockdown in the world, but on counter hit, it's a full ground bounce. You get big damage and a huge combo. So that's there. Other important thing to note is that this move has auto guard from frames, 8 to 26, I believe? Let me double check my math there. Yes, 8 to 26, high auto guard. So if they swing into this and what they use is not a low, you will auto guard it for a long time. That's a big window, as an 18-frame window of auto guard. So this is not something that they can just poke at on reaction unless they have a good low. This flat out loses to lows. If you do Rin and people see it coming and they hit a low, you're going to get counter hit. It's going to hurt, especially against characters like Bad Guy, for example. Anyone who has a big confirm off their counter hit sweep, that's not a good time. But this is something that you can throw out once in a while, and you don't have to fear absolutely dying for it. Also, really important about this is throw invulnerable. People cannot just throw you out of this. For the first 22 frames, it is throw invuln. And people are not going to hit a button after frame 22 against Rin, or they're probably going to die. So this is effectively completely throw invulnerable. If someone has a weird flinch and accidentally throws you out of it, it can happen during the last few frames, but that's not very likely. In general, this is another one of your options to extend Fuujin pressure. If they block it, like I said, you're even. You don't have to die for it. And yeah, on counter hit, super big reward. It can also be used as a knockdown when you don't have meter for Anji's B&B combos that require meter. Certain Fuujin combos you can combo into hard slash Rin, swat into the ground, and get an okay knockdown, not a great one. So that's the last bit of important information about Rin. But Rin is a very usable move in this game, but just like Fuujin follow-ups in Strive, if you are predictable, you will die. You will absolutely get hammered because, again, your only low is minus 19. Fan Needles is much, much, much slower. Hop is way better. Rin is way better. But the other important thing is that you are doing this attached to a move that is frame 1 through 12 invulnerable strikes. So doing this, waiting, and doing it again because someone waited and then they try to swing at you, you can beat that now. That is a very real thing. We'll get into more of that in a deeper guide. There will be stuff talking about pressure and how to utilize Fuujin. The last thing I really want to hammer home before I wrap up the special move guide here, this is not mixed. Fuujin, even though it and its follow-ups are miles away better in this game than they are in Strive, you are still not basing your game plan around giving people quote-unquote the Fuujin mix. That is not how this character works. These are a part of Anji's pressure because sometimes you just need to end pressure in Fuujin, and this is a move you throw out in neutral because if you blow through something and counter hit someone, they die in this game. You get to do your best combos into knockdown into Okazeme in this game if you counter hit someone with Fuujin. That is one of Anji's biggest hookups, just like it is in Strive. You're not going to do 80% damage all the time like you do in Strive, but you're going to do a lot of damage for this game, and you're going to have a very good setup after. And Oki is much, much, much scarier in this game than it is in Strive. So play around with the specials. If you have any questions on them, just like the normals, feel free to leave me a comment. I am more than happy to go into greater detail. And again, if these feel very basic in their explanations, that's because there's going to be more in-depth stuff as we build up to the later parts of the guide. I'm really trying to build the foundation first with how all his kit works and the general idea of what it's used for in his gameplay before we really start getting into the, okay, here's how you play Anji Mito and +R, because there's a lot of stuff to learn with this character, and he's one of the simpler characters in the game in terms of execution and his game plan. His game plan is fairly straightforward. This character's got a ton of buttons. He's got a lot of specials, and like I said, none of them are bad. All his specials are very, very practical. They have very good use as long as you're using them properly. If you use your specials improperly with this character, you will be eating counter hits left and right. You're going to have a sad. So get in the lab if you want, practice a little bit, mess with FRCs if you're feeling up to it. Again, do not feel like you need to beat your head against the wall learning every FRC, and do not feel like that if you can't do FRCs that you can't play +R or play Guilty Gear. That is flat out wrong. There are certain characters in this game that, yes, if you can't FRC, you are severely hamstringing the character. Anji is not one of them, so we get a pass, and passes are good. Less execution, never a bad thing. Makes life a little bit easier, makes it a little bit more straightforward to learn the character and have some fun. So let me know what you think, how you're feeling about how these guides are going. Again, building the foundation, it's going to get more robust and more in-depth on specific things as we get going, but I want to take my time and make sure all the basics are easily gone through and easily understandable so that people can go, if they're just learning the character, just learning the game, go, I just want to know what his buttons do, or I just want to know what his specials do. That way they'll be able to reference back to these before trying to actually apply it in the more advanced manners. And I think that's going to be a worthwhile payoff as long as I can do what I want to do with these guides. And so far, I'm fairly happy with the idea I'm using, but if you have any suggestions or have any thoughts, let me know. That's all I got for today, everyone. As always, thank you for watching. Thanks for the subs and likes and stopping by the stream. Appreciate all of you. Please take care of yourselves and be safe. Be good to one another. And I will see you in the next guide. Peace.